Hello, citizens of
PlayStation.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world.
Ridge Racer!
This is living.
Welcome everybody to the first episode of latest PS5. This show is going to be dedicated to nothing but the PlayStation 5. And what better way to go through with it than with myself, Sonny Sangera, huge PlayStation fan, was back from day one, PS1 launch day, had the machine, been in the video game industry for over 15 years. I'm the A to Z encyclopedia on it. I just wanted to talk PS5. And I'm also joined by, and this might be a little bit controversial, I was thinking about getting another PlayStation person in, but then I thought it's just a diet version of myself with less knowledge. So I thought, who better than to get someone from the Nintendo side of things, but has crazy spec knowledge and knows everything that Mark Cerny says that I don't. And that's Mr. Alex Sylvester. How you doing, Alex?
Woo! Yeah, man, what's up, man? What you saying? Should actually have a cheer in there.
That's
Obviously,
it. We'll be speaking
the Nintendo is the company of innovation, man. You need to remember that, man. You can't believe that you left that out.
Yeah, we'll see this gen. But obviously, we're here to talk about the PlayStation 5. We've been talking about it for weeks about doing the show. You know, a lot of people on the latest PS5 Twitter account were asking and DMing for a podcast. So obviously the holders were like, can you do one? We're like, yeah, sure. Nothing better to do. Let's talk about PlayStation 5. And man, there's a lot to talk about. If you do it right, there's a lot to talk about, right? So we thought the way we're going to do the show is we're going to focus on one thing per episode and really go into detail on it. So, for example, this week one, we're going to talk about how Sony has handled talking about the PlayStation 5 in public this week. Next week, it could be just solely about the SSD. The week after, it could be about Tempest Audio. And whenever we get latest updates and information from Sony and PlayStation, we'll bang it on the show and we'll talk about it. How does that sound, Alex?
That sounds good to me. Yeah, even though they haven't actually shown the actual console itself, they've definitely put a lot of illusion up there. So yeah, let's get into it.
Excellent. So I thought, what better way to start than to quickly let the listeners know a little bit about us in terms of our PlayStation backgrounds. So just a quick 2 minutes each, just about your first PlayStation, how you know your history with PlayStation and your favorite PlayStation game.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing PlayStation ever since it came out. You know, it's an all right console. Obviously, coming from the Nintendo family of innovative consoles, it was nice to have a little bit of a change. To see what Sony was doing after they left the Nintendo camp, but that's for another day. Yeah, favorite game, still to this day. Well, actually, let's say the Metal Gear Solid series. I think that that was pretty much the best series on the console, if not on the family consoles, regardless. Metal Gear Solid 1, loved it from day one. Wasn't too much of a fan of Part 2. Yeah, I'm sure I'm not the only one with that. But yeah, I loved the first one, and I absolutely adored the third one. Snake Eater was my jam, even though I played it on the 3DS as well, on Super Max hard settings. Smashed that game to pieces. I just thought it was unbelievable. In regards to everything else, I mean, Uncharted, big fan of Uncharted. Obviously, Pro, Tekken. I don't need to tell you too much about that, do I? I've been kicking your ass numerous times with a plethora of characters. Yeah, well, again, we can leave that for another day. In fact, we should actually do a live stream with me kicking your ass about that. But yeah, let's see what the fans want with that one.
We'll see. Excellent.
Yeah, anything else you want to know? Yeah, just give me a holler.
I think the listeners would love to know about your initial reaction to Batman VR.
Oh my gosh, shouldn't he fucking... Okay, I can't really say that again. It's a family show. But yeah, it's... let's just say that I was thoroughly excited with that game. It blew my mind. I gotta hand it to PlayStation VR, man. I mean, they definitely took a massive chunk out of Nintendo's handbook about the innovation side. Just the way you're actually able to control Batman, the gadgets that he has, even though it's a short form story telling, it works very well. ticks all the boxes. The graphics were phenomenal. The VR unit, even though it was a bit sweaty, I loved the experience. The only regret is that I just wish it was actually a full game. I can't believe it's only like what 5 minutes long. That's what it felt like anyway. But yeah, loved it, loved it. How about yourself?
Oh man, same. Like, I initially started with the Mega Drive, got the PlayStation 1 on launch when it came out, and that was it. 3D
Mm,
gaming, Tekken, the original Tekken, Ridge Racer, Battle Arena Toshinden. I was there, and that was it. I was in love with PlayStation. Everything from there. PS1, PSX Pocket Station, PS2, PSP, PS2 Slim, PS3, PS3 Slim, PS4, everything, man. PS Vita, everything. I'm on Vita Island. I love it, and I've been there all the way. Absolutely love it.
mm,
And up until 2018, I would have been with you as with Metal Gear Solid as my favorite game. But then a small matter of God of War came out in 2018, and being
oh
a
yeah,
father myself, I totally jammed with that game. It was unbelievable from start to finish. No cuts, no breaks, never been done before in a video game, and it was just perfection. Hence, if you beat a Rockstar game to almost every Game of the Year award, you've made something special,
hmm,
and that's what God of War was to me. So, my top five: the 2018 God of War, Metal Gear Solid, the original on PlayStation One. So tricky. The Last of Us would be in third place. Metal Gear Solid 3 would be in fourth place, and then Mass Effect 2. I just love space, and that game was just unbelievable when it hit PS3
yeah,
finally.
yeah.
Um, Loved it. But yeah, being PlayStation through and through, know everything there is to know about PlayStation. As I said, I've worked in the industry for 15 years with a major publisher as well, and got to work closely with many people at PlayStation. Got to work with Kojima as well briefly at Eurogamer. So there's so many like intertwined things I have with that PlayStation franchise, and I am so fucking super excited about the PS5, especially after the Road to PS5 show that Sony did. But before we get into that, Alex, really quick, your favorite PlayStation console?
My favorite PlayStation console. I'll probably have to say the PS4 now.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
PS4. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, for a little game which I did forget to mention, called Super Hot. Yeah, in the classic, freaking love that game. I only wish that they had the same capabilities on the Switch, but we'll get there one day. But that game is, I mean, it's simply phenomenal. I mean, I could play that forever.
Well,
But yeah,
listeners,
God
I
of
just
War,
want you to know how Alex plays that game because he comes to my house and I've got the PSVR and everything set up. Alex will come to the house. He will be semi smashed out of his head thanks to Jack Daniels, and then he'll put the
Jack.
VR headset on. So he's not only playing Super Hot VR, he's playing Super Hot VR drunk, and he's still
It's a bullet
managing to
time
do.
game. It only makes sense, yeah.
He turns into Neo, and it is amazing to watch to see the dodges and stuff like that. If you do have a PlayStation VR and you haven't played Super Hot VR, play it. It is absolutely stunning.
Drunken bullet time.
I think my favorite. It's weird. I think the PS4's had overall the best catalog of big games, but it's still the original PlayStation. It's the OG PlayStation for me.
Mm.
Down since day one ish. It was just that how going into 3D with Tekken and then having the original Metal Gear Solid that just changed the game for that
That
changed
did.
the
Oh my
industry. That
gosh.
game changed
Yeah,
the
it did.
industry. That did, and then having things like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater
Hmm.
here in England, ISS Pro Evolution Soccer, and then you get to the pinnacle
Yeah,
of
nice.
that's it. You get to the pinnacle of the original PlayStation before the PS2 came out. Tekken 3, oh my goodness,
Yeah. Brilliant game, and that literally just
unbelievable.
revolutionized. I mean, I guess we hadn't seen a change, well, a revolution in terms of fighting styles since obviously we had Street Fighter 2, then that was superseded by Mortal Kombat, and then obviously Tekken blew that away like to pieces. I mean, they actually perfectly married a 3D fighting engine with 2D controls. Hats off to them for doing that because not every fighting company been able to do that.
Exactly. And listeners, the reason why we wanted to, you might be thinking, why are you talking about this? Talk about PS5 is because what we've just done is given you 6 minutes of accomplishments that PlayStation consoles have been able to do, whether it be 3D fighting games or, things like Metal Gear and stuff, because this is the sort of stuff, it's when you get exciting new technology that developers are capable of doing these things. And that's what we're going to see with the PlayStation 5. because this isn't an evolution of hardware, it's a revolution. And, we'll get into that now as we talk to you about our opinions on how Sony have rolled out the PS5. So, we're here now, obviously. We've had quite a bit of news with the PlayStation 5, but I mean, Alex, just to look at it, Sony did something that's never been done before. If you think about the way the PS4 was unveiled, it was a huge conference in New York City with the world's media in play there. You look at, and then obviously before that, it was always E3, where you did PlayStation hardware or Xbox hardware or Nintendo unveils and things like that. But the world has changed since 2013, when the console was initially revealed, the PS4. And before that, in 2004 with the PS3. Since then we've had Nintendo Directs where Nintendo do it that way, or we've had, the big world is the internet, it's the digital platform. But Sony really went, left field with what they did when they announced the first bit of information about the PlayStation 5 is they went old school, they went OG, they went to Wired and started talking tech there. And they didn't do it once, they did it twice. I mean, what was your initial thoughts on them doing that? Because obviously we live in a digital age. We're borderline in the matrix at the moment. But Sony just went to a magazine, a tabloid, and people obviously who know their stuff in Wired, and really went into depth about some of the things about PS5. What did you think of that?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a great opportunity for Sony to stall. No, just play. No, I think it's a good opportunity for them to just slowly start to trickle out the information. I mean, obviously, as you're saying with the internet, we're starting to see people get a bit more innovative in terms of how they market any product, and why should this generation be any different? So they decided to go like the more techie route. They decided to go straight to a publication and trying to get a bit more authenticity behind it, so it doesn't seem like they're just, blowing, gas up their own ass. But yeah, I thought it was a great move, definitely a good move, and the level of their focus is now looking definitely at the chipset. They're looking at the inner workings of it, how it's all going to revolutionize the industry, how they've revolutionized the architecture for the actual system itself, which is going to be scratching the heads of a lot of game developers, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they unravel this beautiful conundrum that Sony's laid for them.
Definitely. And it was funny because listening to podcasts and other podcasts and things like that, and listening to mainstream media and journalists, and in some case journalists and influencers moan about, oh, Sony did it wrong. And in my head, I thought to myself, if you're a hardware company and you don't show the machine, you don't talk about anything massively, you vaguely go over each point in the article, yet the entire industry is talking about it, you've spent no money, and you've got the industry talking, you're trending on social media, and all you did is a magazine interview. Mm-hmm. It worked, right? Because you got what you want at the end. And it was so funny when these Wired articles came out, and the biggest people who were critiquing that way of doing things were people who worked for big digital companies who would love to have done like a big unveiling. But, the way I look at it, I look at the way the PS4 was launched, I look at it to now, you said it perfect. They were stalling because they've got a huge competitor in Microsoft who, happily blundered the launch of the Xbox One, but they're doing what Sony did. They learned from their mistakes, and we've seen, and listen, I know straight off the bat, if you look at it from sales numbers, this generation is a bit of a joke. If you're a Microsoft listener, I apologize, but when you are being sold way over 2-1 in a generation, when a Switch which came out years after your launch and toppled you super fast, right? That tells you something. When your competitors at over 110 million and you haven't broken 50 million, something was fundamentally wrong there. And the key thing of that was messaging right before the machine was even out.
Yeah.
But what's the most important thing before a launch, and this is an industry, is mindshare. Who has control of the consumer mindshare, right? Those
Yeah,
two
of course.
articles that Sony did were Wired were pre anything Xbox did, and the
Hmm.
mind share was with Sony. And then what did Microsoft do? They went to E3. They spoke about Project Scarlet. They did a quick 3-minute video, and
Yeah.
in that video, they just made a video version of what Mark Cerny said. Everything,
Hmm.
bullet point for bullet point. The biggest bullet points of that initial E3 video were literally the Wired article. So the mind share was already there in Sony's
Yeah,
favor.
yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, it's high stakes at the moment, and I guess they were just baiting to see what Microsoft was going to come out with. But yeah, I think yeah, Sony's definitely taken a massive page again from the Nintendo school book, really, and in terms of how to unveil any console, as we saw with the Switch.
But I mean, Nintendo are completely different. They literally announced the Switch and released it a few months later. It was just like it wasn't a year
Really.
wait or anything. It was just like, yeah, we're just going to do it quick. We know what we've
Yeah,
got,
it's
and it
true.
works. And
But
I,
we always knew. So yeah, something was probably in the background. They didn't give as much details. You
mm,
know, you're starting to see like a little bit of familiar territory. We knew what the chipset was going to be. We had no idea what the format was going to be, but we did know that the two departments, the handheld and the console department, had merged, and that's all we were really given. You know, and then next thing you know, they started flooding the industry or the internet with all the information,
and
and it
that's
seems that that's what Sony's doing now. Sorry, good.
no, I was going to say, and that's right because if you've got the world talking
Hmm.
on all social media and over all the other things and forums and everything, you don't need to say anything. You're controlling the mind
Yeah.
share, and the mind share at that time was PlayStation 5. And then Microsoft obviously came out with more information at the Game Awards, where they actually, and this is where I actually feel it was more of a reactive move from
Hmm.
Microsoft. Now, a lot of people will be like, you're just saying that because you're a PlayStation fan or whatever, but everyone was just talking about PS5. IGN, everyone was doing surveys. PS5 was winning every single one of them. People were
Hmm.
more anticipated with the PS5. Over 110 million people have a PS4. They're gonna upgrade more likely to a PS5 unless Microsoft do something great. Microsoft realized they need to quickly change that mindshare before Christmas, and they showed the machine right off the bat at the Game Awards. And for me, it was a desperate move, but it was the
That was a
right
very desperate
move.
move.
It was a desperate move, but it was the right move because it started to get it
Yeah,
changed the
yeah,
messaging because now it was okay, Sony, show us yours now,
yeah,
and
exactly.
I
Yeah.
felt that because obviously listening to a lot of friends who are big Xbox gamers and people who work in the industry who I'm in great contact with, and I had a lot of sources saying that they're seeing a shift. A lot more people are talking positive about Microsoft because they've got the balls to show it first and this quick.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
But then the reaction again came from Sony early in the year when we were all sitting there at GDC waiting for like something, and it was just a logo. And it was just a PlayStation 5 logo, nothing else, just a PS5 logo and the launch of a website, and
Yeah,
bam, it gets way more likes than the
yeah.
Xbox
And
unveil,
110 million fans just wetting their pants in anticipation to see what they're going to do next.
That's it, and again, it's just that trick. It's bread. This is the thing, right? It's Hansel and Gretel, isn't it? Sony are just laying breadcrumbs. It's a
Yeah,
smart business decision to do. It's what Apple do. Apple will, if you think about it, every other year, a prototype phone leaks from
yeah,
Apple, whether it be in a bar, in a coffee shop, or something stupid like that. The breadcrumbs begin, and then the announcement date is, yep, we're having an Apple show on this day. They've laid
yeah,
the breadcrumbs. Ubisoft, there's always an intentional leak, which people think is, we accidentally leaked. You don't accidentally leak every single Assassin's Creed game that's
yeah,
ever been released. It's intentional to lay the
yeah,
breadcrumbs leading it, and that's what Sony's been doing. They've been laying breadcrumbs
yeah.
leading in because they want Microsoft to show as much as they can so they can work from that point. And bam, Microsoft went all out. They unveiled everything, the spec sheet, the actual
Mm,
innards of the machine. They did it really well. They presented it really well. They used Digital
yeah,
Foundry, who are well respected. If you don't know who Digital Foundry is, go and search them on via Eurogamer or on YouTube. Absolutely amazing bunch of guys who know their tech. They're on your
mm,
level, Al. And
yeah,
and this is for me where a little bit of that PS3 era Sony came out, because it was literally a day after that Sony announced Road to PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I think they rightly got the negativity, which we'll get into why, from the show that Sony, they did deserve the negativity. But again, it's society today. We want everything now. We you know,
Yeah.
we're instant. We just want it there. We want it now. We don't want to wait. We just want as much info. And Microsoft understood that and gave it us all on that Monday.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we were like, right, we've got everything of Microsoft, regardless of what Sony say, whatever warnings they say, our expectations are now high, right? We want to see something. And, but then Sony obviously said that this is what we were going to show at the Game Developers Conference for developers. And
Yeah.
obviously it's, I think the problem that they did is they shouldn't have gone big on it all on social media and stuff, because it did give you that, even though they said that warning, it gave you that initial feel like, oh, we're going to see something big here, aren't we? And then,
Yeah.
and from a tech
They went
standpoint,
pure tech.
but
They
I mean,
went
I
pure
geeked
tech.
out on it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I kind of knew what we were going to
Yeah.
get, because that's typically not Sony's style to give
No.
it all out. They never want to give out all their stuff first. But I mean, what was your thoughts on the Cerny show? We're not going to go into what your thoughts were about the tech. We'll do that in later
Okay.
weeks. But the actual, like the presentation and how
Sure.
Cerny went and things like that.
To be honest, I think it was boring as hell, man. I mean, that guy was just going on and on and on. But I mean, like, not to negate what he was talking about. I mean, obviously, he was talking about some phenomenal architecture and technology. But the level of detail that they went into, I think, was going to go. Well, I think it did go over a lot of people's heads, because obviously people don't want to see the figures, they don't want to see the details, they just want to see the actual material. As I say, the proof is in the eating, and that's what. Again, which a credit to their marketing departments. I mean, again, it's keeping everybody on the edge of their seats. Both PlayStation and non-PlayStation fans. You know what I mean? Everyone's thinking, okay, what the hell are they doing? They're creating this great mystique around their next console, and I think that's what's going to definitely pout with sales when it gets released at the end of the year. So I think it was a good move. Definitely a good move.
Yeah,
Unorthodox, but definitely good.
And it was smart, because Monday everybody was talking about Xbox Series. Obviously, coronavirus and everything has changed the landscape over the last few weeks. But at that point, everybody was talking about the Xbox Series X for one day. And then Sony stole it. And you could see it had an effect on Microsoft, because they intentionally leaked a fake date of Thanksgiving 2020 to quickly try and get that. Again, listeners, it's all about mindshare. Microsoft had it Monday, Sony had it Tuesday, and then Microsoft quickly tried to get the headlines back by announcing a date of Thanksgiving and then retracting it, saying that's not actually a date. But they were just trying to fight to get that mindshare back.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I sat there for 54 minutes and I understood what he was talking about and I was excited, but I really think if you're doing that, you need to show an example.
Show something. Yeah, just show
Doesn't
it.
have to be anything. They showed the Spider-Man thing in the Wired article, which eventually leaked, which showed the speed of the load and stuff. But it was just like, all you've got to do is just show us something. And I know it's funny, because obviously we're back at that stage where, if you remember when the Xbox One and the PS4 were coming out, fanboys were aplenty, right? But it was really vicious. You know what I mean? Like really bad. Kids back then are YouTubers now, and they're just going to go petty at it. They don't understand the banter, and they don't understand the levels of fanboyism of the previous generation. So they were all jumping on it. But at the end of the day, the key thing is third-party developers are absolutely gushing over the tech and the spec of what
possibility,
these exactly, because you can go more power, and listen, I always say look at Digital Foundry, not affiliated with either company, Microsoft or Sony, and they're excited about the power and the features that this console can do. But I think the best thing is for listeners is you, as a Nintendo lifelong gamer,
what you set me up for.
No, but what I'm saying is you've seen obviously the push of, you've got Xbox on one side, who have you now know the machine, now know what it looks like, and then you've got PlayStation 5 where you just know about this revolutionary tech, but you don't know. How do you think both have gone to date? What's exciting you more?
Okay, well, still, I think if you're asking me whether either of them are going to touch the Switch in terms of sales, nah, I don't think so. But just playing. I think it's interesting to see where the next generation is heading. You know, I think we've both the PS4 and the Xbox One X pretty much showed the pinnacle of, I guess, console slash PC gaming. You know, in terms of just making like a quick plug it and play package. But now this is something completely different. I mean, especially when we're talking about the likes of AI being involved. I mean, when has that really been the forefront of anyone's conversation in terms of gameplay? You know, we've always seen the way games adapt to your skill. You know, that happens, but we're talking about connecting it to a almost like a neural network. You know, between different players, analyzing the way they play, and then that influencing your game. It's just going to be very interesting to see how the third-party developers, as well as the first-party developers, show the world what this new technology can do. I mean, obviously we've never been at this stage in tech before, but it's going to be very interesting. I think out of all the iterations, this is definitely going to be the most, I guess, defining generation of all, because we're now connecting more and more to the net. We're talking about higher bandwidths. We're talking about a wide range of ideas, companies working together. I mean, as we discussed previously about the battle royale style games. I mean, at the moment, when you're looking at hundreds of people playing at once, I mean, we're going to be upping that. It could be infinitum. You know, the amount of tech that these guys are throwing into these systems, but only time will tell. But it's very interesting to see, because naturally what Nintendo's going to do from both these consoles is adapt and just make it a lot better, isn't it? That's what we do. And Nintendo has a great way of taking old tech and just making it work perfectly, you know, and just show that you don't really need the best or the latest gizmo to make a great game or a great looking game. So
You take your little indie toy and get out my face, yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, you look at it at the moment, it'll be interesting because in the height of that Sony, the road to PS5 tech video, rightfully so, people shit on it like crazy. But you look at it now, obviously the world is in lockdown because of the coronavirus. I hope you're all staying safe and stay home. But when we do come out of that, Microsoft, you know, the problem is they've shown the machine and everything, and this has happened, and it's slowed it down. Whereas Sony are going to come out, and Mark said, if you go to Digital Foundry or Eurogamer on social media or on their website, they released their article today with a sit-down interview with Mark Cerny, which was based after the road to the PS5. And he even says there's more to talk about with tech, innovative heating and everything. So they've got more tech to talk about. And we've still got to see games. We've still got to see the machine. At the end of the day, when Microsoft can show as much Halo as they like, Sony will show games as well. But the news will be Sony finally unveils PS5, and it will be, you know, it will be on all the news. It will be all the mind share. It happened with PS4 as well. Microsoft showed their machine first, and then E3 came. They showed game after game after game. Sony showed the PS4 console and showed great games, but the only thing on all news was the actual PS4 console. Now, whether it's going to be a good or bad, is the PS5 going to be a hideous piece of kit because it's going to be powerful, or is it going to be elegant and beautiful? We have to wait and see. But, I mean, if you look at it from a standpoint, Microsoft, they have positive mindshare going in, but they don't have as much mindshare as people who are talking about the PS5. And between now and launches, Sony still have a lot more to show than Microsoft. And most importantly, if you're an Xbox gamer, please don't go to a Sony gamer and say it's all about the games, because you lose that argument before you even start the sentence. You may gain something in the next 2 to 3 years and have a fight for it, but right at this point in time, do not use that term because you get annihilated. It's just talk about, you know, Halo for like the 10th year running, but just don't.
I'm not. That's the one thing about Mike. Well, there's many things that I'm happy with the Xbox camp, but the fact that they're going to be focusing on cross-platform games for the longest time instead of just going, balls deep into the next generation.
Again, this is going to be another show that we've got to talk about, because is that innovation? Microsoft saying that there's not going to be an exclusive first-party game for 2 years, and Sony be like, "Fuck that, we're going all in on our new tech." So it'll be really interesting to see how the evolution changes on there. But at the moment, don't listen to the bad press if you're a PlayStation gamer. You've got so much more to see yet. And the moment Sony starts showing games and load times and boot speeds, and the moment you see the machine, no one's going to remember Mark Cerny's interview. Everyone's going to be talking about how fast the game loaded, or how fast Spider-Man moves, or things like that. It's going to be Spider-Man on nitrous.
Yeah. I mean, that was phenomenal. I mean, especially when they unveiled that. I mean, that was then. And that was on capped hardware. The dev kits were capped compared to what they're going to be releasing this year. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But again, it's all in the developers' hands, and
definitely
exactly how they're going to be innovative. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Well, I think on episode 2 of latest PS5, we're going to dedicate it to the SSD. Which is a solid state drive, and obviously the benefits of its speed, what its actual speed and tech terms mean, and what that means for games. And I'll leave you with a little snippet here, okay? It takes the PS5 hardware, the dev kits that are currently running, 0.27 milliseconds to load 2 gigabytes of data. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. All right, but we will get into more of that next week when you hear about the speed and the SSD. Thank you very much for listening. Alex, you got anything to say to the listeners that's non-Nintendo related?
Even those hearing those numbers, they will make you jig in your pants, man. It's just going to be interesting to see what they're going to come out with. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
Excellent. And my name is Sonny, and we will see you on episode 2 when we talk about the SSD. Thank you very much.
Hello, citizens of
PlayStation.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world.
Ridge Racer!
This is